Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 5 of the Go Healthy class. I hope everyone, Go Healthy Plus class, hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. As you can see here on the PowerPoint, if you haven't submitted your 5th tracker for today, please make sure you do that. Also, just as a reminder, I do have everyone's mic on mute. So if you want to ask a question or a comment, you can definitely unmute your mic. Of course, as usual, I do have the chat feature available as well. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do today is starting with the discussion of last week's assignment, okay, our action step. We will talk about that. The second thing, we're going to discuss the topic of understanding calories. We'll then get to our discussion questions. I think we only have about 2 discussion questions. I'll introduce the week's action steps coming up and then next week's topic. And then I will give you a reminder about next week's tracker, okay? All right, let me just check, make sure this is still on the record. Yep, it is. Just checking. I don't want to miss that. All right. So last week's action steps, okay, was to, in general, focus on choosing your proteins wisely. If you do remember, we said that proteins were essential for the proper functioning of your body. We also said with protein, you can get those from both animal sources and you can get those from plant sources. The specific action step was to swap in those healthy protein sources, which would be like lean meats, skinless chicken, also seafood such as like fish and shellfish, also low-fat and fat-free dairy products. So that's the animal side there. And then your plant proteins, which are automatically healthy, would be your beans, peas, lentils, soy products, and nuts and seeds, okay? So swapping in those healthy protein sources, swapping out those unhealthy protein sources that would improve your protein quality. Those unhealthy protein sources would be those high-fat meats, uh, chicken with skin on it, and you're eating the skin. Also fried chicken, those types of foods. Also whole milk, because the calorie content is high and the unhealthy fat is high. So does anyone want to comment on what swap-ins, swap-outs that you made with your protein? And when you're doing that, I'm just going to remove my camera so you can focus on the PowerPoint, and I will come back on near the end. So anybody want to mention, since we met last week, any specific swap-ins, swap-outs that you made with your proteins? Maybe you swapped in like a lean piece of meat, say maybe a tenderloin, and you swapped out like a ribeye. Or maybe you swapped in fat-free milk and you swapped out whole milk. Or maybe you did meatless. Maybe you swapped in, beans and you swapped out the red meat. Any takers there?
It's Patty again.
Hey, Patty.
I no longer use 2% milk. I use fat-free milk.
Okay, good. Yep. And that's a great example. You swapped in the fat-free milk and you swapped out the 2% milk. Yeah, and I
and a
will.
lot of chicken without the skin too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that's a good swap in, swap out. Yeah, and that's the thing with your dairy products. Anytime you go from a whole milk or whole dairy product down to, reduced fat, fat-free, you're just dropping the calorie content and you're dropping, if not eliminating, that harmful saturated fat. Yeah. All right, anyone else? Okay. Well, if you up, okay, we've got a chat from Sabrina here. She said, I like pork chops. Every once in a while, I swapped for a pork tenderloin. Yes. So less fat, so have to be careful not to dry out. That's true. Usually the leaner they are, you have to make sure you cook them right so they're not dried out. But yeah, that is a good swap. Anytime you see the word loin in that description, that means lean. So yeah, she swapped in a pork tenderloin and maybe swapped out another piece or cut of the pork that is not the loin. Yep, great example. Okay, anybody else before we move on? Okay, yeah. So Tora said she's done the same thing with cream cheeses, sour creams, with the low fat options and zero sugar creamers. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, with your cream cheeses, your sour cream, you can go from that full fat version and you can drop all the way down to the fat-free version. So you'll see a change in calories. You're going to see a change in that harmful saturated fat. Things like creamers can be a huge number one, trap for added sugars. And number two, creamers, you can get either the whole fat creamers or you can get the low fat to fat free creamers. Yep, good examples. Perfect. Well, thank y'all for chiming in. So moving forward, again, think about your swap ins and your swap outs with your protein sources. All right. So that's going to get us to our topic of the day, which is understanding calories. What we're first going to do is watch about a 4-minute video on a general understanding of calories. And you do have this in your booklet that you can actually click on the link. So what we'll do, we'll watch that, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what your body weight is influenced by largely, and we're going to discuss the energy balance equation and how you can actually calculate, monitor your energy balance equation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stop sharing this screen here, and I'm going to get to our video, which is right here. Let me blow it up. Okay, so we'll watch it. It's 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Like I said, after it's over, I will stop sharing the screen, bring our PowerPoint back up, and then we're going to talk about what your body weight is largely influenced by and the energy balance equation. So here we go.
We hear about calories all the time. How many calories are in this cookie? How many are burned by 100 jumping jacks, or long distance running, or fidgeting? But what is a calorie really? And how many of them do we actually need? Calories are a way of keeping track of the body's energy budget. A healthy balance occurs when we put in about as much energy as we lose. If we consistently put more energy into our bodies than we burn, the excess will gradually be stored as fat in our cells and will gain weight. If we burn off more energy than we replenish, we'll lose weight. So we have to be able to measure the energy we consume and use, and we do so with a unit called the calorie. 1 calorie, the kind we measure in food, also called a large calorie, is defined as the amount of energy it would take to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Everything we consume has a calorie count, a measure of how much energy the item stores in its chemical bonds. The average pizza slice has 272 calories. There are about 78 in a piece of bread, and an apple has about 52. That energy is released during digestion and stored in other molecules that can be broken down to provide energy when the body needs it. It's used in 3 ways. About 10% enables digestion, about 20% fuels physical activity, and the biggest chunk, around 70%, supports the basic functions of our organs and tissues. That third usage corresponds to your basal metabolic rate, a number of calories you would need to survive if you weren't eating or moving around. Add in some physical activity and digestion, and you arrive at the official guidelines for how many calories the average person requires each day: 2,000 for women and 2,500 for men. Those estimates are based on factors like average weight, physical activity, and muscle mass. So does that mean everyone should shoot for around 2,000 calories? Not necessarily. If you're doing an energy-guzzling activity, like cycling the Tour de France, your body could use up to 9,000 calories per day. Pregnancy requires slightly more calories than usual. And elderly people typically have a slower metabolic rate. Energy is burned more gradually, so less is needed. Here's something else you should know before you start counting calories. The calorie counts on nutrition labels measure how much energy the food contains, not how much energy you can actually get out of it. Fibrous foods like celery and whole wheat take more energy to digest, so you'd actually wind up with less energy from a 100-calorie serving of celery than a 100-calorie serving of potato chips. Not to mention the fact that some foods offer nutrients like protein and vitamins, while others provide far less nutritional value. Eating too many of those foods could leave you overweight and malnourished. And even with the exact same food, different people might not get the same number of calories. Variations in things like enzyme levels, gut bacteria, and even intestine length means that every individual's ability to extract energy from food is a little different. So a calorie is a useful energy measure, but to work out exactly how many of them each of us requires, we need to factor in things like exercise, food type, and our body's ability to process energy. Good luck finding all of that on a nutrition label.
Okay, let me stop sharing that screen here and let me pull our PowerPoint back up. In just a second. Okay, so what we're going to do next, like I said earlier, is we're going to look at, what our body weight is largely influenced by, and specifically looking at what the energy balance equation is. And then based off that energy balance equation, we're going to look at, how that determines weight gain, weight loss, or just maintaining your weight. And then we're going to see how you would have the ability to calculate your own kind of energy balance equation, okay? So right here with your body weight, and as I go along, by the way, if you have questions, definitely shoot me a chat or unmute your mic. But you see here that your body weight is largely influenced by two main factors. Number one is the calories in. Calories in is actually your foods and your beverages that contain calories. And then the second thing that your body weight is largely influenced by is calories out, or what they call your total caloric expenditure. Now, this calories out, or the total caloric expenditure, it has three parts. Number one, it has your basal metabolism, and this is just basically the measure of how many calories your body needs on a daily basis just to keep you alive. So things like maintaining your heart rate, your blood pressure, maintaining your organs of your body, that's called your basal metabolism. Okay, it requires calories, and that's the largest component of this calories outside here. And then the second part, you have the thermic effect of food, so the digestion of foods, and that's just a really small component. But yes, it does require calories to digest food, but again, just a small component. And then the third component of this calories out, or total caloric expenditure, is the amount of physical activity you do, which that's the one you actually control. Now, the calories in and the calories out, this is what we call the energy balance equation. Those two factors, the energy balance equation. Now, let's look at the energy balance equation in the sense of just maintaining your weight, all right? Just maintaining your weight. Okay, as you can see, what this means is that your calories in, so the calories that you're consuming, would equal your calories out, or that total caloric expenditure. And that would cause you to just maintain your present body weight. Now, let me just give you a general practical example of, say, using 2,000 calories. Let's just say, for example, you consume 2,000 calories of foods and beverages in a day, but your body, your total caloric expenditure, requires about 2,000 calories a day as well. You can see those are equal. And when those are equal, they balance out. Therefore, you're going to maintain your weight. Okay. So again, you have an exact balance of the calories in and the calories out. Now, let's just show you an example of gaining weight related to the energy balance equation. Okay. You can see here, again, your calories in, which is all of your foods and your beverages, is actually greater than your calories out, or your total caloric expenditure. Okay, that would result in weight gain over time. Let's just give you an example using 2,000 calories again. Let's just say you consume 2,000 calories a day of food, but your total caloric expenditure is 2,000 calories a day. You can see that the amount of food and beverages that you're consuming is 500 more than the calories outside of that equation. And over time, that can result in gaining weight. So you see that imbalance in that equation. Now let's look at weight loss, which is the last example here. This would be where your calories in, your foods and your beverages, is less than your calories out, or your total caloric expenditure. If you see, using the example of 2,000 calories again, let's just say you're consuming 1,500 calories of foods and beverages, but your total caloric expenditure is 2,000 calories a day. That means you're at a negative 500, which would result over time in weight loss. So again, you see that that unequal balance toward weight loss. Okay. Now, before I give you examples of how you can calculate or monitor your own energy kind of balance, does anybody have any questions? And I know that was very simplistic, because you do want to keep it simplistic. Does anybody have any questions before we get to showing you how you can calculate it or monitor it? Okay, and if you type in a chat and if it pops up, I will grab it. All right, so right here, this first slide here is how to actually calculate, if you so desire, and monitor, if you so desire, that calories outside of the equation. So that total caloric expenditure, again, that's three parts: your basal metabolism, thermic effect of food, and physical activity. Well, guess what? They've made it very easy for you to do that these days. And that comes in the form of these companies that you can either download as an app, or you can go online and you can go through their website. And everything you see here, they have free options. So like MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Chronometer, Fat Secret, MyPlate. They even have a plan on their website, and also My Net Diary. These are just some of the different applications you can use that will calculate how many calories you need in a day, which is that calories outside of the equation. And if you choose to, you can actually enter all of your food and it will tell you where you're at, and seeing if you're having a balance, or if you're trending toward weight loss, or if you're trending toward weight gain. Okay. Now, there are others out there that you can use, and you probably are using some of those for the ones who are using some. So, does anybody have any questions? Again, this is an easy way to know where you stand, an easy way where you can know where you stand, because the question is maybe, I don't know how many calories I need in a day. Well, these will easily help you. And like I said, you can enter all of your foods and beverages in these as well and see where you're standing based on how many calories you need in a day. You're welcome, Carrie. Now, I will say the one on the bottom right, it's a real good one. It's especially tailored for those who have diabetes. Of course, anyone can use it, but it is tailored for those with diabetes. It's really good. And of course, there's other options out there that are strictly paid options. The ones I put here, they have a free option, but they also have more of a premium option where you can pay. So any questions on that, which is how to calculate or monitor your calories outside of the equation, in addition to allowing you to monitor what you're doing as well? Okay. And again, if the chat comes up, I will grab it. Which now brings us to the considerations for the calories inside of the equation. So your foods and your beverages. Now there's kind of two considerations, and that's the quality and the quantity of those calories. All right. So with your quality of calories, you have high versus low quality. High quality foods, which is your calories, include unrefined, minimally processed foods such as vegetables, whole fruits, whole grains, low fat, fat-free dairy products, your healthy fats, and those are things like fats found in, your liquid oils like olive oil, canola oil, etc. Also healthy fats that are found in fish, healthy fats that are found in nuts and seeds, and also your healthy sources of proteins that we talked about last week and introduced today. So that should really be a vast majority of your food choices. It's these high quality foods. Now, you do have low quality foods, and these include the ones that are highly processed snack foods like potato chips, for example. Those sugary sweetened beverages like Cokes and Dr. Pepper and Sprite and fruit juices and things like that. Also refined grains like white bread, white rice, white pasta. Also the added sugar, the fried foods, and the foods that are high in those harmful saturated fats. And these low quality foods are the ones that you should vastly limit in your diet. You should vastly limit these in your diet. Okay. So that's the quality of your calories, high versus low. And then you have the quantity of your calories. And this is where you want to focus on eating those high quality foods listed above, still practicing portion control. We still don't want to overconsume healthy foods. Also, you want to limit, like I said earlier, those low quality foods. And even if you are consuming some of these low quality foods, still make sure you practice portion control. Just say, for example, if you do want to eat some potato chips, well, make sure you portion that out to a small portion so you can still have that kind of enjoyment, that indulgence, but you're not consuming way too many calories by sitting down, opening up the whole bag and eating most of the bag, okay? So if you are eating these low quality foods, make sure you practice portion control. And then lastly, with the quantity of calories, that's where it's important to understand that energy balance equation. If you so choose to, you can go back and look at those apps on the previous slide, or you can type those in on an internet search, and you can calculate your specific energy balance, okay? So that's the considerations for your calories inside of the equation. Any questions on that before we get to our 2 discussion questions? Okay, and if you type that chat and it pops up, I will grab it. All right, let's get to our 2 discussion questions. The first one is, are you counting calories right now? In other words, are you using some of those applications that I went over? You know, are you putting in all the foods into those apps or those websites and it's actually counting all of those? Or are you generally using our guide to smart food choices, which helps you select the lower calorie foods within all the 5 food groups? So are you counting calories? Are you using the guide to smart food choices, or are you doing both? You may be doing both. Anybody want to comment?
This is Patty. I
Hey,
think
Patty.
the ideal thing would be to do both. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when we get so busy in our life and
Mm-hmm.
things are going on and we don't have time to sit down and look at that chart and things like that, it's real easy for us to just look at the calorie count and think, well, if I'm doing low, at least I'm doing something
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah, 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 and that's a good point. I mean, if that's something that's not fit into your schedule, yeah, if you just have a general view idea of what's considered lower calories, healthier foods, uh, you know, that's definitely a win for you. Good. Thank you for sharing that. Mary said reading a lot of labels. Yep, label reading can definitely help you. Looking at those calories that's in a serving, you know, looking at all those nutrients. Anyone else that wants to comment on the first question? Okay, well, let's go to the okay, all right, good. I've had a few more that came in here, and you can look at that second one while I go over here. So Sabrina said she currently is using the guide to smart food choices. Uh, she finds that it aids in better choices because I do not feel so restricted as if I count calories. Yeah. Yeah, and you have that option. Some people really despise counting calories, and I understand that, but some people do enjoy that. Yeah. So I think the guide to smart food choices is a good option. All right, and Kathy says she tries to make a menu each week and keep up with the calories and the food choices. Yeah, so you can go that route as well. And I would definitely recommend building a menu for the upcoming week and shopping accordingly off that menu. And if you want to get in depth with the calories with that, that's a good option as well. Perfect. All right, last question here. Which lower quality foods do you think you need to limit in your diet? Is it those high processed snack foods? Is it sugary sweetened beverages? Is it those refined grains like white bread, white rice, white pasta? Is it added sugar? You know, do you put sugar in your tea? Do you put sugar in your coffee? You know, are you eating a lot of desserts, cookies, cakes, pies, candy bars, also fried foods or foods high in saturated fats? Okay. All right. So Sabrina said one food that she does need to limit in her diet is chips. And again, if we are eating these lower quality foods, you know, if we base it off our guide, these will be occasional. And even when they are occasional, we definitely control the portions. Anyone else with maybe a comment on lower quality foods that you might need to limit in your diet? Okay. All right. Well, now this takes us to the week's action steps. And the week's action step is to focus on those high quality foods, limiting those low quality foods. Also, have a general understanding of your energy balance equation. Hopefully today did help you. If you want to get more in depth with that, more into the weeds, you can utilize those companies that I referred to on that slide. And of course, don't forget about the application of all of your fundamentals. That's the 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, at least 64 ounces of water per day, at least 30 minutes of some form of physical activity, making sure you're using the My Plate tips, those swap ins, swap outs for all of those food groups, etc. Okay, so that's your action steps for the week. And then next week's topic, we're going to talk about meal planning, which is what Kathy alluded to on her chat right there. And then lastly, next Tuesday, like I do every week, I will send everyone the tracker for next Wednesday. So does anybody have any questions or comments before we go for the day?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, what I will do, just like each week, I will have this downloaded. You're welcome. I will have this downloaded to a YouTube channel. Once that's downloaded, I will email it out to everybody. So other than that, I hope y'all have a great rest of the week, and I will see you all next week. Of course, if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me over email or call my office. Y'all have a good one. Thank y'all.